Have you ever wondered what is truly needed to become your own best self healer and a dynamic transformational coach that helps to create breakthrough healing? Jen and I sat down and had a candid and important conversation with fellow practitioner Heather Cooan, who also happens to be a graduate of our Holistic HTMA Pro program. Heather shares her own experience in this health coaching industry, what has helped her become a highly sought after practitioner that has very dynamic skills to help her chronically ill population like no other practitioner has been able to. She talks about the importance of being your own best client in order to be able to show up better for your own clients on their healing journeys. And she's going to share some excellent advice for you, especially if you want to learn how to create breakthrough healing. Considering chronic health issues are on the rise and particularly becoming more challenging to navigate, especially post the challenges that we've faced in our world over the last few years. These are important messages that surely shouldn't be missed. So let's dive in with Heather.
So thinking about HTMA in the way that Jen and Sarah teach it, I think is a really big differentiating tool in the toolbox of a coach. Because a lot of people don't know how to navigate some of that stickier mindset and head and heart stuff that comes up when people are, one, navigating difficult chronic illness, and two, navigating difficult change. Like, in order to actually heal and provide longevity in that healing, you really need to be able to tackle the head and the nervous system. And we forget about the nervous system. We get the mind, but then we forget that it's connected to the rest of us. And so thinking about HTMA in this way and applying it to your coaching business in this way just levels things up in a way that I haven't seen happen with any other tool. So there's that soundbite.
Yeah, and I'll add that I didn't see it happen with any other program I took.
Right.
Everybody explained the what, like, yeah, you need to help clients, with mindset, and you need to talk to them about the importance of nervous system regulation. And here's some tools to recommend. But the actual, like, the how to approach that in coaching sessions and how to, like, gradually pull clients along and keep them inspired and motivated and feeling safe to take steps to do it in a consistent manner, that's a whole nother ballgame.
Well, not just that, but you guys also teach the ability to be dynamic as a coach or a guide. And that's, I think, what's missing in a lot of coaches in terms of their ability to speed up or slow down based on where their client is and what they're experiencing. Because every case is different. Everyone is going to run at a different pace. Everyone has to start in a different place. And if you're not able to think on the fly and adjust your plan as needed, you're not going to get anywhere. And so now that the client base at large is getting more complex, those skills are going to be more in demand and required to be successful in what we're doing. So, yeah.
And not to mention, keep ourselves regulated.
Yes.
While we're working with these types of clients, because let's face it, we're all on the spectrum of trauma to varying degrees.
Yes.
And we all can get triggered no matter how dynamic, how well-versed, how skilled, and how professional we are. At the core, we're still human. And we need the skills to be able to meet ourselves where we're at and keep ourselves regulated so that we can co-regulate with our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another piece of the puzzle. I don't think a lot of us realize how unregulated we are. And then we jump into this work and we're triggered by our clients. And then we don't know why we're having a hard time. Mm-hmm. And when you go through HTMA, the way that you guys teach HTMA, and you're digging into not just the mineral depletions, but the corresponding reasons for those depletions and also the effects of those depletions on the psyche and the nervous system, then it becomes kind of apparent, like, oh, shoot, I need to do my own work here. And then you start to really dig in and you realize, I'm judging my client or I'm receiving something my client is saying because of my own stuff, not because of anything that they're doing. And that's a big wake up call. And I would say that anybody who's interested in going through this course, I hope you go in with eyes wide open to that, because that's a really valuable component of this class. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I always say there's nothing quite like entrepreneurialism, but specifically wellness field or wellness arena entrepreneurialism to bring someone up close and center with their own unhealed emotional wounds and trauma. Because let's face it, the world and our clients reflect back to us what is alive and kicking within us. And it is a huge wake-up call and a grand invitation to do the work, so that you can show up and help your clients do the work in an authentic way.
Yeah. And that authenticity is really important in terms of cutting through the noise, because there's so many coaching services available now. Anybody can pick anybody. But if you've done the work yourself and you understand what the process is, you're going to be that much better at connecting with your clients and helping them to be successful. And bonus, you feel better and live better, and everything is better.
Well, yeah, and what a better tool to do it with than the HTMA, because minerals don't lie and they reflect both the physical and the mental/emotional body.
Yep, exactly.
And there's no other lab test that does that. Literally, there is not a lab test on the market that shows such a vast window into both of those aspects of chronic disease.
Right. And when we're dealing with chronic illness of any kind, complex or non-complex, there's a significant price tag that goes along with navigating that journey. It's expensive to work your way out of chronic illness. And so to be able to offer one very inexpensive lab that gives me a window into the entire endocrine system, into the psyche, into the nervous system, into the cellular charge, it's just invaluable. It's a great tool, and it helps me not just to provide more reasonable services to my clients, but it helps me to widen my margins as a coach as well. It's a wonderful tool.
Yeah, and also provide the client with tangible evidence on paper in color graphs and bars and things to show them exactly how their body is functioning, physiologically, biochemically, mentally, and emotionally. That's huge.
It is huge. And I was doing HTMA prior to taking this course, and I was doing it kind of with supplements, but not entirely with supplements, because I'm always very careful with supplements because my clientele is so sensitive. But I noticed major emotional breakthroughs in the way that I now present those findings to the client. And they're kind of shaken a little bit, like, I'm feeling very seen right now. I'm feeling very validated right now. I'm not crazy. I actually am sick, and now I can actually see it on paper. And it's a really beautiful, validating experience for them. And I feel like that validation helps them like pull up their bootstraps and get to work. Whereas before it was like in the ether and I don't know what's wrong and I just don't feel good and nobody can provide me answers. This kind of helps to provide an anchor. And then they feel a lot better about making the changes because they can see that we can measure the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% concur. And the thing with supplements, there's absolutely a time and a place with them. Sarah and I still use them. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, if that makes any sense in this context. But we've learned that they can't be relied upon as the foundations of healing. They're just one small tool in a vast toolbox.
Exactly. They're still important, but they're a tool. They're not the center. Exactly.
Correct. And like you said, some people just cannot tolerate them. And that's a fact. And when the body is, ridden with accumulated stress and trauma, supplements are even more information that the body has to make sense of. And if it's already overwhelmed and overburdened, adding a litany of supplements is just going to further tax an already taxed system. And
yeah,
also
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot. So I get clients who have been through several other practitioners by the time they get to me. And when I read the HTMA the way that you guys have taught me to read it, then the light bulbs kind of turn on like, oh, no wonder I didn't heal with these three other experiences. No wonder I couldn't tolerate these supplements. No wonder it didn't work. And I think that's a really invaluable because I can tell them all day, but when I show them and they start to connect the dots, it's really a powerful experience and it helps them get back on track and understand that it wasn't them. They didn't fail. It wasn't an issue with them. It was an issue with the approach. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's
And just lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. And so that's why we created Holistic HTMA Pro, to shed light on an entire new paradigm of healing that we like to now call transformational medicine, helping people become what I love to call your own best badass self-healer,
I love
because
it.
we're all wired for self-efficacy, right? And as the biblical saying goes, you can give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, but teach a man to fish and he eats for a lifetime. And it applies to the healing journey better than any other journey that I've seen it apply to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that that is the outcome. That is the goal, is to work yourself out of the picture and get them up on their own 2 feet and feeling well. That should be our job. And I don't
Well,
think there's a better tool than HTMA in the way that it's taught with you guys.
yeah, amazing.
So
All
Heather,
right.
you have a lot of initials after your name, meaning
I
you've
do.
done a lot of things, taken a lot of courses, trainings, whatever. And I know Jen and I are kind of in that same boat. But I'm just curious as to, you know, how you would compare kind of what you learned in Holistic HTMA Pro with just all the other programs that you've taken.
That's a really good question. So I think most of what I've taken has actually been more focused on the tangible and the what to do. So I've got a lot of nutrition in my background, which is all just how to use food as medicine. And then I've got some functional medicine training in my background, which is more around protocols and templates and reading labs and applying supplements in that way, which can be useful. But I think it's a slippery slope in terms of getting stuck in template land or protocol land. I like to approach every client as kind of a blank whiteboard and gather all of the data and then put together a custom plan. HTMA, a holistic HTMA Pro really led with more of it wasn't really a methodology. It was more of I guess, a different focus, a focus around the mind, the body, the spirit, the connection of all of those three. And then really the things that happen over our lifetime that tend to disrupt that cohesion between the three. And it can be trauma trauma is kind of obvious, but other things that aren't so obvious, right? Like pushing past capacity or demanding too much of yourself or just avoiding things for too long that you need to be addressing. A lot of those things will disrupt energy, and then we can pick it up on the HTMA instead of leading with the lab and then providing an outcome. You guys kind of flipped it on its head and you led more with these are the things that we know happen. Let's see what we're picking up on the lab, and then let's cross-reference in terms of how do we apply actual tools that are tangible versus you need to go purchase a supplement or really kind of staying in that realm. It was kind of, it really is what the name is, holistic HTMA. So is quite different, a little bit abstract actually to describe, but very different and very welcome as far as I was concerned.
Great.
Yeah, amazing.
That's a hard question to answer in
It
English.
was. Well, it's hard to describe Holistic HTMA Pro. It's like we can describe it all day long, but to really understand it, one needs to experience it for themselves, because
Yeah,
it's a completely different paradigm.
it is.
That's what it is. It's transformational medicine, as I said. That's what it is, and that's what people need. Supplement protocols and prescriptive lifestyle recommendations are a dime a dozen. Anyone can do that.
Well, and I also think that the world has changed. So I think that a lot more people would have been successful with prescriptive supplement regimens and labs pre-pandemic. But in this post-pandemic world, we have compounded so much grief on top of what was already there prior to the way things were handled. I'm not seeing things the same coming out of it on the other end. Like infections are harder to clear, parasites are harder to clear, nutrient deficiencies are harder to recover. And a lot of it is because that nervous system is already out of balance. And that I'm finding is where I need to start and end more often than not these days. And having the Holistic HTMA Pro toolkit as part of my toolbox has really like perfect timing. It really has been awesome.
Yeah, I call it post-pandemic factors. And there are a litany of them that were not, alive and kicking, at least not near to the level that they are now prior to the pandemic. However, as a complex chronic illness thriver myself, I would say that complex chronic illnesses started getting way more challenging and less responsive to standard functional medicine approaches of, running the Dutch and the GI maps and the organic acids panels and then creating prescriptive supplement protocols. I would say that started shifting like 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And people started to get less and less responsive to that approach. And then, mast cell activation syndromes have like spiraled out of control. And, how many GI maps and organic acids panels and supplement protocols can you implement over, years, and yet with little to no change before you say this approach is outdated. We need an update. We need a revamp.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that's what we did with Holistic HTMA Pro. We've given the whole functional medicine a kind of a revamp that it's been needing for a long time and will always need now moving forward.
Well, and I think that's one of the major differentiators with Holistic HTMA Pro is that you guys are working from the premise of the root of all roots. Doesn't have anything to do with most of what you can find in all of the labs that we've been running for all of these years. It's really in specifically understanding how energy works in the body. And then we've found a wonderful tool that helps us to measure all of the inputs for that energy system in the body. But if you don't understand the nervous system and the psyche and trauma and how everything connects together, you're not going to get there.
And cell danger response, which is all about mitochondria and so forth. And, there's so much talk about how parasites are root causes or hormone dysregulation are root causes or gut dysbiosis and a leaky gut lining are root causes. No, they're not. Those are not root causes. Those are symptoms of the three primary root causes: accumulated stress and trauma, a broken energy production system, and a nervous system that has gone awry. Those are the three primary causes. Everything else are symptoms of those.
Yep, absolutely. And you'll see that if you work in this business long enough with the complex cases.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you look at the history and it's like, okay, so you did a Dutch and then you addressed your adrenals here. Then you did a GI map and you tried to go after H. pylori here. And you came to me and you still feel like crap and none of this has made any difference and some things have gotten worse. Let's dig into what's underneath all of that.
Well, right. And they keep running GI maps and their body is a revolving door of different parasites, different bugs. And they're like, okay, now I got to kill these and then I'll be well. And then they do that and they're still not well because no, that is not the root cause.
Yeah. Yeah. You ask someone who's been through all of that, but why are you vulnerable in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And they look at you like, nobody's ever asked me that before. Well,
no.
Thanks, Heather, for that conversation. If you're ready to learn how to create breakthrough healing and transform your coaching biz without feeling like you're missing critical pieces of the wellness puzzle, then we created a free on-demand training just for you. So you can go to your internet search and type in www.wellnesscodeacademy.com and find the link to enroll, or you can also find the link below this video in the information section. We can't wait for you to check it out.